Go through the normal procedure. Whoops. All right. Okay. We are setting the notice out, checking to make sure we are streaming on Facebook. Yes, we are live. Okay. Good to see everybody. And of course, we're wishing everybody a happy new year. And for some of you, it's already the new year. And for some of you, it's New Year's Eve. Of course, as devotees, we do not drink except water and some orange juice and stuff like that. So please observe the regulated principles tonight. Thank you. So let's chant a little bit and then we'll get started. Whoop. The other songs. So we will start the new year or end the year, depending on where you are, by chanting Shri Guru Charana Padma for Srila Prabhupada and expressing our thankfulness. Shri Guru Charana Padma Mandavakati Satma Padanmui Savatanamante Shri Guru Charana Padma Mandavakati Satma Padanmui Savatanamante Prasadibai Bhavatori Ayahi Krishna Praptiyai Ahoite Yakara Prasadibai Bhavatori Ayahi Krishna Praptiyai Guru Kapat Papakya Jai Korea Harana Korea Mandeya Shama Guru Kapat Papakya Jai Korea Harana Korea Mandeya Shama Prasade Pure Sarvakasa Shigo Yorane Rate Ese Ukamagate Prasade Pure Sarvakasa Jana di loye, jame prabhu say. Surana di loye, jame prabhu say. Gyan rede prakasita. Di loye, jame prabhu say. Divyan rede prakasita. Divyan rede prakasita. Gaya Rachitrita Vede Gaya Racharita Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adamajanara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adamajanara Bandhu Lukkana Lukkira Divana Lukkana Lukkira Divana Prabhu Jaya Devore Padachaya Prabhu Jaya Devore Padachaya Eviyas Kusutri Bhuvana Eviyas Kusutri Bhuvana Prabhu Pada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada, Jai Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paramahansa also Teta Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Savaya Chaitanya Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Adanta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Navacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shiva Siddhigaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Maturadam Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Srimati Devi Ki Jai. Sambhaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya, Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namani Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gaurvadi Pacharni Nivashesha, Shunyavadi Paschacha Deshatarni. Let me read the translation. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us, giving you the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So, on this New Year's Day, or New Year's Eve. Okay, gotta fix that camera. Hold on a second. Adjust the camera. Okay. On this New Year Day or New Year's Eve, we have to remember how much we owe and thankful we are to Srila Prabhupada, because without Srila Prabhupada, we would not know anything about Krishna, or even if you were born in an Indian family, you would know something about Krishna, but you wouldn't know anything about Krishna, anything substantial, anything real. You'd be very confused. So we are very fortunate because of our connection with His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. And to thank Him, we should dedicate our lives to assisting Him in some way or other, no matter what your ashram or role in the society is. You should dedicate your life to serving Srila Prabhupada and glorifying Srila Prabhupada. Sacrifice your life somehow or other. You have one life right now, and just give this life to Krishna. You've given so many other lives to your own self or to your expansions of yourself. Now give this life to Krishna and to Srila Prabhupada. All right, so now we'll continue by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. We are reading his Krishna book, and we're on the 89th chapter, in the middle of the 89th chapter. And we're about to embark on a very interesting story regarding Lord Krishna and Arjuna going to see Mahavishnu. Okay, really interesting story. Okay, let us start. So, Ganata Miranda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shi Gurave Namaha. So I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Hold on a second, I gotta adjust this so the text is bigger for all of you to read. And that should be good. Okay. And a few more things. And so we left off in the middle of chapter 89. And we had just read the story about Krishna saving Lord Shiva. Okay, here we go. Here's the next story. Once upon a time in Dwarka, a Brahmin's wife gave birth to a child. Unfortunately, however, just after being born and touching the ground, the child immediately died. The Brahmin father took the child and went directly to the palace of the king. The Brahmana was very upset because of the untimely death of the child in the presence of his young father and mother. Thus his mind became very much disturbed. Formerly, when there were responsible kings up to the time of Dwapara Yuga, when Lord Krishna was present, the king was liable to be blamed for the untimely death of a child in the presence of his parents. Similarly, such responsibility was there during the time of Lord Ramchandra. As we have explained in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the king was so responsible for the comforts of the citizens that he was to see that there was not even excessive heat or cold. Now the Brahmana whose child had died, thinking there was no fault on his own part, immediately went to the palace door with a dead child in his arms and accused the king as follows. So of course now we see so many anomalies in this present day and age. So it's understood the leaders of society basically are not qualified, and therefore they're misleaders. And they're allowing so much V-karmic activities to go on in society that we're experiencing all these different inebrities in the weather. Of course, a lot of that is due to global warming, but ultimately it's due to V-karmic activities. And not only in every reason that, but in every these people are less fortunate, short-lived, memories going very quickly. You know, so many different symptoms of Kali Yuga. So nowadays, the leaders are not responsible for practically any damn thing except for filling their pockets. The present King Ugrasena is envious of the Brahmanas, is what the Brahmana was saying. The exact word used in this connection is Brahma Dvisha. One who is envious of the Vedas of a qualified Brahmana or of the Brahmin caste is called Brahma Dvis. That means envious of Brahma or Brahmins. So the king was accused of being Brahma Dvish. Dvish, actually. He was also accused of being Shatadi, falsely intelligent. The executive head of a state must be very intelligent to see to the comforts of the citizens, but according to the Brahmana, the king was not at all intelligent, although he was occupying the royal throne. Therefore, the Brahmana also called him Lubda, which means greedy. In other words, a king or an executive head of state should not occupy the exalted post of president or king if he is greedy and self-interested. But it is natural that an executive head becomes self-interested when he is attached to material enjoyment. Therefore, another word used here is Vishayat Manaha. The Brahmana also accused the king of being Kshatriya Bandhu, which refers to a person born in a family of Kshatriyas or the royal order, but lacking the qualifications of a royal personality. A king should protect Brahminical culture and should be very alert to the welfare of his citizens. He should not be greedy due to attachment to material enjoyment. If a person with no qualifications represents himself as a Kshatriya of the royal order, he is not called a Kshatriya but a Kshatriya Bandhu. Kshatriya Bandhu basically means the friend of a Kshatriya or the relative of a Kshatriya. Of course, someone who is born in a Brahmin family and he's not qualified to be a Brahmin, he's called Brahma Bandhu. I guess there's Kshatriya. No, Vaishya Bandhu. Vaishya Bandhu also. Of course, you don't have this thing called Shudra Bandhu. Similarly, if a person born of a Brahmin family but has no Brahminical qualification, this is what I just said, he is called Brahma Bandhu or Dvija Bandhu. Dvija means like twice born, which is what a Brahmin is, the friend of the twice born. This means that a Brahmin or Kshatriya is not accepted simply by birth. One has to qualify himself for a particular position. Only then is he accepted as a Brahmin or Kshatriya. Thus, the Brahmana charged that his newly born baby was dead due to the disqualifications of the king. The Brahmana took it to be most unnatural, and therefore he held the king responsible. We also find in Vedic history that if a Kshatriya king was irresponsible, sometimes a consulting board of Brahmanas maintained by the monarchy would dethrone him. Considering all these points, it appears that the post of a monarch in the Vedic civilization is a very responsible one. Let me turn up the volume a little bit. Okay. And actually, let me give the example from the Bhagavatam of the story of King Vena. King Vena was, well, not only was he irresponsible, he was a dacoit, a criminal, abusive, exploitative. I can't find enough words to describe King Vena. Cruel, nasty, a murderer, egotist. And so the Brahmanas met together and they decided to dethrone him. But how did they dethrone him? Oh, they killed him with the mantras. They killed him with the mantras, and then there was no king, so they had to use his genes to create a new king, but without the bad genes. And the good genes, they were known as Archie. Archie was his wife, and Prithu was the incarnation of God who appeared from the good genes. So in other words, you got a king and queen from the good genes. Wow, pretty good. And from the bad genes, you got someone named Bohuka. Anyway, let's stories there in Bhagavatam if you're interested in reading that particular story. The Brahmana therefore said, no one should offer respects or worship to a king whose only business is envy. Such a king spends his time either hunting or killing of animals in the forest or killing citizens for criminal acts. He has no self-control and possesses bad character. If such a king is worshipped or honored by the citizens will never be happy. They will always remain poor, full of anxieties and aggrievement, and always unhappy. In modern politics, the post of a monarch has been abolished, and the president is not held responsible for the comforts of the citizens. In this age of Kali, the executive head of a state somehow or other gets votes and is elected to an exalted post, but the condition of the citizens continues to be full of anxiety, distress, unhappiness, and dissatisfaction. Of course, even if the king tries his best through material means to help the citizens, he's going to be unsuccessful. He has to be aware of the law of karma. He has to be aware of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and act accordingly. And in this way, for example, let's take Parikshit Maharaj, who was an ideal king. He found a personality, whose name was Kali, who was killing or cutting off the legs of a bull and torturing a cow. So he got ready to kill this personality. Finally, the personality Kali surrendered to Parikshit Maharaj. So Parikshit Maharaj just simply, first of all, he was going to ban him, and secondly, he gave him places to live in, and those places were where there was illicit sex, intoxication, beating, and gambling, and gold is hoarded. So the king has to be so strict to make sure the regulative principles are being followed. Otherwise, when the regulative principles are not being followed, there's so much inauspiciousness. And even, of course, breaking the regulative principles brings subtle living entities, too. We won't get into that. The Brahmana's second child also died at birth, and the third also. He had 9 children, all who died at birth, and each time he came to the gate of the palace to accuse the king. When the Brahmana came to accuse the king of Dwarka for the 9th time, Arjuna happened to be present with Krishna. On hearing that a Brahmana was accusing the king of not properly protecting him, Arjuna became inquisitive and approached the Brahmana. He said, "My dear Brahmana, why do you say there are no proper Kshatriyas to protect the citizens of your country? Is there not even someone who can pretend to be a Kshatriya, who can carry a bow and arrow at least to make a show of protection? Do you think that all the royal personalities in this country simply engage in performing sacrifices with the Brahmanas, but have no chivalrous power?" Thus, Arjuna indicated that Kshatriyas should not sit back comfortably on the pretext of performing Vedic rituals, but must rather be very chivalrous in protecting the citizens. Brahmanas, being engaged in spiritual activities, are not expected to do anything which requires physical endeavor. Therefore, they need to be protected by the Kshatriyas, so that they will not be disturbed in the execution of their higher occupational duties. So we see something similar in the Ramayana, where Vishwamitra Muni was having trouble performing a sacrifice. And the demons, the Rakshasas, were attacking the sacrifice. So Vishwamitra Muni, instead of using his Brahminical tejas or power to kill the demons, he went to Dasharath, the father of Lord Ram and Lakshman and Shatrughna, and he borrowed Ram and Lakshman to kill the demons. It's a wonderful story in the Ramayana. If the Brahmanas feel unwanted separation from their wives and children, Arjuna continued, and the Kshatriya kings do not take care of them, then such Kshatriyas are to be considered no more than stage players. In dramatic performances in the theater, an actor may play the part of a king, but no one expects any benefits from such a make-believe king. Similarly, if the king or the executive head of a state cannot give protection to the head of social structure, that's the Brahmanas, he is considered merely a bluffer. Such executive heads simply live for their own livelihood while occupying exalted posts as chiefs of state. My lord, I promise that I shall give protection to your children, and if I am unable to do so, then I shall enter into blazing fire so that the sinful contamination which has infected me will be counteracted. Upon hearing Arjuna speak in the way, the Brahmana replied, My dear Arjuna, Lord Balaram is present, but he could not give protection to my children. Lord Krishna is also present, but he also could not give them protection. There are many other heroes, such as Pradyumna and Aniruddha, carrying bows and arrows, but they could not protect my children. The Brahmana directly hinted that Arjuna could not do that which was impossible for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He felt that Arjuna was promising something beyond his power. The Brahmana said, I consider your promise to be like that of an inexperienced child. I cannot put my faith in your promise. Arjuna then understood that the Brahmana had lost all faith in the Kshatriya kings. Therefore, to encourage him, Arjuna spoke as if criticizing even his friend Lord Krishna. While Lord Krishna and others were listening, he specifically attacked Krishna by saying, oh my God. Of course, this is a pastime. My dear Brahmana, I am neither Sankarsana, that's Balaram, nor Krishna, nor one of Krishna's sons like Pradyumna or Aniruddha. My name is Arjuna, and I carry the bow known as Gandiva. You cannot insult me, for I have satisfied even Lord Shiva by my prowess. We were both hunting in the forest. I had a fight with Lord Shiva, who appeared before me as a hunter, and when I satisfied him by my prowess, he gave me the weapon known as Pashupata. That's the trident. Do not doubt my chivalry. I shall bring back your sons, even if I have to fight with death personified. Oh my God. Sounds like he's proud. When the Brahmana was assured by Arjuna such exalted words, he was somehow or other convinced, and thus he returned home. When the Brahmana's wife was to give birth to another child, the Brahmana began to chant, My dear Arjuna, please come now and save my child. After hearing him, Arjuna immediately prepared himself by touching sanctified water and uttering holy mantras to protect his bow and arrows from danger. He specifically took the arrow presented to him by Lord Shiva, and while going out he remembered Lord Shiva and his great favor. In this way he appeared in front of the maternity home, equipped with bow known as Gandiva, and with various other weapons. Arjuna, who apparently had not left Dwarka because he had to fulfill the promise to the Brahmana, was called at night when the Brahmana's wife was to give birth to the child. While going to the maternity home to attend to the delivery case of the Brahmana's wife, Arjuna remembered Lord Shiva and not his friend Krishna. Oh my God. He thought that since Krishna could not give protection to the Brahmana, it was better to take shelter of Lord Shiva. This is another instance of how a person takes shelter of the demigods. So this is a pastime. It's not that Arjuna really lost faith in Krishna. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, Kamaishtashta Krita Jnana Prabhajate Devata. Bhagavad Gita 7:20. A person who loses his intelligence because of greed and lust forgets the Supreme Personality of Godhead and takes shelter of the demigods. Of course, Arjuna was not an ordinary living entity, but because of his friendly dealings with Krishna, he thought that Krishna was unable to give protection to the Brahmana, and that he would do better to remember Lord Shiva. Later it was proved that Arjuna's taking shelter of Lord Shiva instead of Krishna was not at all successful. Arjuna, however, did his best by chanting different mantras, and he shot arrows up and down to guard the maternity home from all directions. The Brahmana's wife delivered a male child, and as usual, the child began to cry. But suddenly, within a few minutes, both the child and Arjuna's arrows disappeared into the sky. It appears that the Brahman's house was near Krishna's residence, and Lord Krishna was enjoying everything that was taking place, apparently in defiance of his authority. It was he who played the trick of taking away the Brahmana's baby as well as the arrows, including the one given by Lord Shiva, which Arjuna was so proud. Antavatu palamti sham tad bhavatyopamedasan. Less intelligent men take shelter of the demigods due to bewilderment and are satisfied with temporary benefits that they award. In the presence of Lord Krishna and others, the Brahmana began to accuse Arjuna. Everyone see my foolishness. I put my faith in the words of Arjuna, who is impotent and who is expert only in false promises. How foolish was I to believe Arjuna. He promised to protect my child when even Prajuna, Aniruddha, Lord Balaram, and Lord Krishna had failed. If such great personalities cannot protect my child, then who can do so? I therefore condemn Arjuna for his false promise, and I also condemn his celebrated bow Gandiva and his impudence in declaring himself greater than Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna, Prajuna and Aniruddha. How can anyone save my child who has already been transferred to another planet? Due to sheer foolishness only, Arjuna thought he could bring back my child from another planet. Thus condemned by the Brahmana, Arjuna empowered himself with a mystic yoga perfection so that he could travel to any planet to find the Brahman's baby. It seems that Arjuna had mastered the mystic yogic power by which yogis can travel to any planet they desire. He first of all went to the planet known as Yamaloka, where the superintendent of death, Yamaraj, lives. There he searched for the Brahmana's baby, but was unable to find him. He then immediately went to the planet where the king of heaven, Indra, lives. Being unable to find the baby there, he went to the planet of the fire demigod, then to the planet of the Niriti demigod, then to the moon planet. Then he went to Vayuloka and Varunaloka. When unable to find the baby on those planets, he went down to the Rasatala planet, the lowest of the planetary systems. After traveling to all these different planets, he finally went to Brahmaloka, where even mystic yogis cannot go. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Arjuna had that power, and he went above the heavenly planets to Brahmaloka. When he was unable to find the baby, even after searching all possible planets, he then attempted to throw himself into a fire, since he had promised the Brahmana he would do so if unable to bring back his baby. Lord Krishna, however, was very kind toward Arjuna, because Arjuna was the most intimate friend of the Lord. Lord Krishna persuaded Arjuna not to enter the fire in disgrace. Krishna indicated that since Arjuna was his friend, if he were to enter the fire in hopelessness indirectly, it would be a blemish on him. Lord Krishna therefore checked Arjuna, assuring him that he would find the baby. He told Arjuna to not foolishly commit suicide. Krishna's so tricky. After addressing Arjuna in this way, Lord Krishna called for his transcendental chariot. He mounted it along with Arjuna and proceeded north. Lord Krishna, the all-powerful personality of Godhead, could have brought the child back without effort. But we should always remember that he was playing the part of a human being. As the human being has to endeavor to achieve certain results, so Lord Krishna, like an ordinary human being, or like his friend Arjuna, left Dwarka to bring back the Brahmana's baby. By appearing in human society and exhibiting his pastimes as a human being, Krishna definitely showed that there was not a single personality greater than he. God is great. That is the definition of the supreme personality of Godhead. So at least within this material world, while he was present, Krishna proved that there was no greater personality within the universe. Seated on his chariot with Arjuna, Krishna proceeded north, crossing over many planetary systems. These are described in Srimad Bhagavatam as Shapta Dvipa. Dvipa means islands. These planets are sometimes described in the Vedic literature as Dvipas. The planet on which we are living is called Jambudvipa. Outer space is taken as a great ocean of air. It's very subtle air, not the oxygen air. And within that great ocean of air, there are many islands which are different planets. On each and every planet there are oceans also. On some of the planets the oceans are of salt water, and some of them are oceans of milk. On others there are oceans of liquor, and others there are oceans of ghee or oil. There are different kinds of mountains also. Each and every planet has a different type of atmosphere. Krishna passed over all these planets and reached the covering of the universe. This covering is described in Srimad Bhagavatam as great darkness. The material world as a whole is described as dark. In the open space there is sunlight, and therefore it is illuminated. But in the covering, because of the absence of sunlight, it is naturally dark. When Krishna approached the covering layer of this universe, the four horses which were drawing his chariot, Shaibya, Sugriva, Megapushpa, and Balahaka, were all hesitated to enter the darkness. This hesitation is also part of the pastimes of Lord Krishna, because the horses of Lord Krishna are not ordinary. It is not possible for ordinary horses to go all over the universe and then enter into its outer covering layers. As Krishna is transcendental, his chariot, his horses, and everything about him are also transcendental beyond the qualities of this material world. We should always remember that Krishna was playing the part of an ordinary human being, and his horses also, by the will of Krishna, play the parts of ordinary horses in hesitating to enter the darkness. Krishna is known as Yogeshvara, as stated in the last portion of Bhagavad Gita. Yogeshvara Hari. All mystic powers are under his control. In our experience, we can see many human beings who have yogic mystic power and who sometimes perform very wonderful acts, but Krishna is understood to be the master of all mystic power. Therefore, when he saw that his horses were hesitant to proceed into the darkness, he immediately released his disc, known as the Sudarshana Chakra, which illuminated the sky 1,000 times brighter than sunlight. The darkness of the covering of the universe is also a creation of Krishna's, and the Sudarshana Chakra is Krishna's constant companion. Thus he penetrated the darkness by keeping the Sudarshana Chakra before him. Srimad Bhagavatam states that the Sudarshana Chakra penetrated the darkness just as an arrow released from the Shanga bow of Lord Ramchandra penetrated the army of Ravana. Su means very nice, and Darshana means observation. By the grace of Lord Krishna's disc, Sudarshana, everything can be seen very nicely, and nothing can remain in darkness. Thus Lord Krishna and Arjuna crossed over the great region of darkness, covering the material universes. Arjuna then saw the effulgence of light known as the Brahmajyoti. The Brahmajyoti is situated outside the covering of the material universes, and because it cannot be seen with our present eyes, this Brahmajyoti is sometimes called Avyakta, which means unmanifested. This spiritual effulgence is the ultimate destination of the impersonalists known as Vedantas. The Brahmajyoti is also described as Ananta Param, that means unlimited and unfathomed. When Lord Krishna and Arjuna reached this region of the Brahmajyoti, Arjuna could not tolerate the glaring effulgence, and he closed his eyes. Lord Krishna's and Arjuna's reaching the Brahmajyoti region is described in the Hari Vamsa. In that portion of the Vedic literature, Krishna informs Arjuna, "My dear Arjuna, the glaring effulgence, the transcendental light you are seeing is my bodily rays. O chief of the descendants of Bharata, this Brahmajyoti is I myself." Wow. As the sun disk and the sunshine cannot be separated, Krishna and his bodily rays, the Brahmajyoti, cannot be separated. Thus Krishna claims that the Brahmajyoti is he himself. This is clearly stated in the Harivamsa, where when Krishna says, "Aham sa." The Brahmajyoti is a combination of the minute particles known as spiritual sparks, or the living entities known as Chit Kana. The Vedic words Soham, or I am the Brahmajyoti, can also be applied to living entities who can also claim to belong to the Brahmajyoti. In the Harivamsa, Krishna further explains, this Brahmajyoti is an expansion of my spiritual energy. So the living entities who are floating, swimming in the Brahmajyoti are actually the impersonalists who actually wanted to merge into God, and that's their destination, and it is like hell for them. Why? Because there's no activities, no relationships, no fun. It's like constant suspended animation. Whew. Like being in a coma. Worse than a coma, because sometimes in a coma you can actually hear things and understand things, but you just can't act or speak or communicate. Krishna told Arjuna, the Brahmajyoti is beyond the region of my external energy known as Maya Shakti. When one is situated within this material world, it is not possible to experience this Brahmana effulgence. In other words, in the material world, this effulgence is not manifested, whereas in the spiritual world, it is manifested. This is the purport of the words Vyakta Avyakta, that is manifest and not manifest, in the Harivamsa. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Avyakta Vyakta Sanatana. Both these energies are eternally manifested. After this, Lord Krishna and Arjuna entered a vast spiritual water. This spiritual water is called the Karana Ocean, which means that this ocean is the origin of the creation of the material world. This place is also known as Viraja, the river ocean, because it is free from the influence of the three qualities of the material world. Viraja. Got it? In the Amritu Jaya Tantra, a Vedic scripture, there is a vivid description of this Karna ocean or Viraja. It is stated that the highest planetary system within the material world is Satyaloka, or Brahmaloka, beyond which are Rudraloka and Mahavishnuloka. Regarding this Mahavishnuloka, it is stated in the Brahma Samhita, Yakkaranarnavajale bhajati sma yoga Nidram Ananta Jagaranda Saroma Kupa. Brahma Samhita 5:47. Lord Mahavishnu is lying in the Karna ocean. When he exhales, innumerable universes come into existence, and when he inhales, innumerable universes enter within him. In this way, the material creation is generated and again withdrawn. When Lord Krishna and Arjuna entered the water, it appeared that there was a strong hurricane of transcendental effulgence blowing. The water of the Karna ocean was greatly agitated. By the grace of Lord Krishna, Arjuna had the unique experience of being able to see the beautiful Karna ocean. Accompanied by Krishna, Arjuna saw a large palace within the water. There were many thousands of pillars and columns made of valuable jewels, and the glaring effulgence of those columns was so beautiful that Arjuna was charmed by it. Within the palace, Arjuna and Krishna saw the gigantic form of Anantadev, who was also known as Shesha. Lord Anantadev, or Sheshanag, was in the form of a great serpent with thousands of hoods, each one decorated with valuable effulgent jewels, beautifully dazzling. Each of Anantadev's hoods had 2 eyes, which appeared very fearful. His body was as white as the mountain top of Kailasa, which is always covered with snow. His necks were bluish, as were his tongues. Thus Arjuna saw the Sheshanaga form, and he also saw that on the very soft white body of Sheshanaga, Lord Mahavishnu was lying very comfortably. He appeared all-pervading and very powerful, and Arjuna could understand that the Supreme Personality of God in that form is known as Purushottama. That means the Supreme Person. He is known as Purushottama, the supreme or best personality of Godhead, because from this form emanates within the material world another form of Vishnu known as Garbhodakshay Vishnu. That's within each universe. Now we're outside all the universes, but in each universe, the Mahavishnu expands as Garbhodakshay Vishnu. The Mahavishnu form of the Lord is also called Purushottama. Purusha Uttama means because he is beyond the material world. In this particular case, Tama means darkness and Ut means above or transcendental. Therefore, Uttama means above the darkest region of the material world. Arjuna saw that the bodily color of Purushottama Mahavishnu was as dark as a new cloud in the rainy season. He was dressed in very nice yellow clothing, his face was beautifully smiling, and his eyes, which were like lotus petals, were very attractive. Lord Mahavishnu's helmet was bedecked with valuable jewels, and his beautiful earrings enhanced the beauty of his curling hair on the head. Lord Mahavishnu had 8 arms, all very long, reaching to his knees. His neck was decorated with a Kaustuba jewel, and his chest was marked with the symbol of Srivatsa, which means the resting place of the goddess of fortune. The Lord wore a garland of lotus flowers down to his knees. This long garland is known as the Vaijayanti garland. The Lord was attended by his personal associates, Nanda and Sunanda, and the personified Sudarshan disk was also standing by him. As stated in the Vedas, the Lord has innumerable energies, and they also stood there in their personified forms. The most important among them were as follows: Pushti, the energy for nourishment; Shri, the energy of beauty; Kirti, the energy of reputation; and Ajaa, the energy of material creation. All these energies are invested in the administrators of the material world, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Vishnu, and also in Indra, the king of the heavenly planets, Chandra, Varuna, and the sun god. In other words, all these demigods, being empowered by the Lord with certain energies, engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Mahavishnu feature is an expansion of Krishna's body. The Brahma Samhita confirms that Mahavishnu is a portion of a plenary expansion of Krishna. All such expansions are non-different from the personality of Godhead, but since Krishna appeared within this material world, To manifest his pastimes as a human being, he and Arjuna immediately offer their respects to Lord Mahavishnu by bowing down before him. So in other words, Krishna was bowing down to himself. Advaita Achyuta. Anadir Ananta Rupamajam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha. There's only one God. And so Krishna can appear in the same place in different aspects, and he can appear in infinite places in different aspects, all simultaneously. How can he do that? Who knows? That's his potency. He is inconceivable. All these different descriptions may appear to be pretty amazing, but Krishna is inconceivable. Even if you are a scientist and you don't read Shastra, you can look at the subatomic particles or look at what's going on in a cell, and it's inconceivable. You wouldn't believe what's going on in a cell, even according to the scientists. So Krishna does things in an inconceivable way. He himself is inconceivable. It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that Lord Krishna offered respect to Mahavishnu. This means that Krishna offered obeisances unto no other than himself, which is what I just said, because Lord Mahavishnu is non-different from Krishna himself. This offering of obeisances by Krishna to Mahavishnu is not, however, the form of worship known as Ahangrohopashana, which sometimes is recommended for persons trying to elevate themselves to the spiritual world by performing the sacrifice of knowledge. Such persons are also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Ajnana yajnana chapyanye yashanto amam upasate. Hungro agraho upasana means to worship yourself. And we worship ourselves or meditating on our belly button or something like that. It's not going to get us anywhere. Although there was no necessity for Krishna to offer obeisances because he is the master teacher, he taught Arjuna just how to respect should be offered to Lord Mahavishnu. Arjuna, however, became very much afraid upon seeing the gigantic form of everything, distinct from the material experience. Seeing Krishna offering obeisances to Lord Mahavishnu, he immediately followed him and then stood before the Lord with folded hands. After this, the gigantic form of Mahavishnu, greatly pleased, smiled pleasingly and spoke as follows. Okay, we're nearing the end here. Not of the chapter, but of today's recitation. My dear Krishna Arjuna, Mahavishnu Uvacha. My dear Krishna and Arjuna, I was very eager to see you both, and therefore I have arranged to take away the babies of the Brahmana and keep them here. I have been expecting to see both of you at this palace. You have appeared in the material world as my incarnations in order to minimize the force of the demoniac persons who burden the world. Now, after killing all these unwanted demons, you will please come back to me. The two of you are incarnations of the great sage Narayan. Although you are both complete in yourselves to protect the devotees and to annihilate the demons, and especially to establish religious principles in the world so that peace and tranquility may continue, you are teaching the basic principles of factual religion so that the people of the world may follow you and thereby be peaceful and prosperous. So we are going to end here because we want to leave time open for questions, and there's actually I understand there's quite a bit left in this chapter. Yeah, there's quite a bit. And we want to be able to deal with that. Okay. Okay, so this is where we'll end. So, then we'll stop sharing and unmute. Give me a second to unmute you all. Allowing you to unmute yourselves. So, who has a question on this New Year's Day or New Year's Eve? Any questions? It's a pretty fantastic story, especially with horses going outside the industry. But these are not ordinary horses. I mean, there's something. It's inconceivable. It's inconceivable. I mean, if God can't do that, then he's not God. But Krishna can do anything any way he wants. I mean, just like Arjuna was able to go all over the planets without horses, he was able to go through mystic powers. Krishna could have done that without horses, without anything, without a spaceship. But Krishna does things in a very interesting way. You know, it's not that Krishna's going to do things in some stereotypical way, get in some spaceship or something like that. He's going to do things in a very interesting way, full of emotion and ras. All right. So, does anyone have any questions or comments? So, someone asks, Anu asks for blessings for Krishna Conscious New Year. Yes, blessings, blessings. So, this.
I'll ask if no one has one.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so sometimes it so happens that we may know something that the guru didn't, and but then a weed is planted and watered. So how to be careful, or
Just you observe etiquette. I mean, the guru. First of all, the guru is not materially perfect. You know, Krishna is materially, spiritually, every which way perfect. You know, he's omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. Guru is not Bhagawan in that same way. So, you know, sometimes you would hear Prabhupada quote a Sanskrit verse different than the original Sanskrit verse, or add some words, or appear not to know a particular verse. That does not indicate anything insofar as his spiritual stature. It just indicates he's not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's a servitor, the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. So one has to be careful. The etiquette has to be there. Without etiquette, then shoo, Maryada Vyatikrama, then Krishna will never be pleased. All right. Okay, so here's a question in the chat window. Mars, you mentioned that we might hate someone's actions, but we should not hate the person. That's right. Maharaji, kindly explain that again, as I understand how can you hate someone's actions yet can't hate. You can hate the person, but you shouldn't hate the person. Well, I mean, I gave some examples. Let's say of a little kid who was crossing the street and there's cars are coming and he's not looking both ways. You know, little kid. I mean, you hate what he's doing, but how can you hate him? I mean, or let's give another example. Let's say when Jesus Christ was on the cross, he prayed for the people who were pinning him on the cross. He said, "Forgive them, Lord, they know not what they are doing." So we have to understand that when someone does something really horrible, which they may do, people do horrible things, we should hate what they're doing, but understand they've made a choice. You know, we hate the choice they've made. We may get a little angry with them, but we don't want to hate them. First of all, the punishment or the judgment is up to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Obviously, we can stop them from doing what they're doing or avoid them or whatever necessary, but we don't, we don't want to hate them. Krishna doesn't hate anybody. Even the demons who are challenging him, he doesn't hate them. He just wants to stop their nonsense and punish them. Or again, like a child who does some nonsense thing. The parent doesn't hate the child. The parent loves the child but hates what the child is doing. Does that mean, regardless of the person's actions, the person is Krishna's part and parcel, so should we? Yes, our brother or sister, our relationship. Krishna's part and parcel. So we should, I don't know, hold anything negative, but we just don't hate the person. We're cautious about the person. We don't go near the person. We put the person in jail. I mean, we keep the person from coming into polite society. I mean, there's so many things you can do. Proper justice system is called restorative justice rather than retributive justice. Now, this is a distinction that's very hard for people to understand. Restorative justice means if someone does something that we don't like, something that we hate, then we want to restore the person to the proper consciousness. That doesn't mean we don't punish them. The punishment should be done with that particular concept. And also with the concept of protecting society. Like if someone is an abuser, we want to exclude them from society in case there's recidivism, in case they do it again, or they have the tendency to do it again. So there's many things we take into consideration. But it never helps to punish someone for the sake of punishment, to make them suffer. Making someone suffer doesn't, in and of itself, change their consciousness. And of course, sometimes, if the punishment is done in such a way to help them understand what they have done is wrong, for example, if someone is an abortionist, if they are punished by being aborted, then after a few times of that, they will understand they should be a little more compassionate and not perform abortions. Anyway, there's certain types of punishment that the punishment is not given to make people suffer, although it may make people suffer, but the intention of making them suffer in that particular case is to rectify their consciousness, not suffering for the sake of suffering. But it's specifically, what do they say? The punishment fits the crime. My mother used to tell me that when she was punishing me. The punishment fits the crime. So it has to be done in such a way to rectify the person and protect society. And also set an example so that others don't do the same thing. You know, there's many different considerations when punishing someone or with the justice system. Another person wants blessings for the new year. I was seeking to understand specific examples on etiquette during personal interactions or email to ensure we do not commit offenses. Found it cool that today we ended with ways on how to be prosperous, and everyone is wishing a prosperous new year. Prosperous. Krishna conscious prosperous. We want everyone to prosper in Krishna consciousness, and whatever Krishna wants us to have, he will give us, and whatever Krishna doesn't want us to have, he will not let us have, or he will take it away. So, as far as etiquette and personal interactions, there's different rules of etiquette. Like with older people or people in a superior position, we offer naturally respect. Just like if someone is a king or a president or something like that, even though they may be a nonsense, we offer them respect because they've been given that position. We offer respect to the position. Anyway, talking about etiquette, it's quite a complicated subject matter, following the different items of etiquette. But it's stated that etiquette is the ornament of a Vaishnava. Proper etiquette, proper behavior. Of course, proper etiquette, proper behavior, the details, they may be different according to which culture we are subjected or we are in. People greet each other in different ways in different countries. I was just looking at, one man who was greeting someone by kissing their hand. I mean, obviously, we don't do that in Krishna consciousness. We don't greet the brahmacharinis or greet the brahmacharis by kissing their hands. And sometimes, in Italy, the men kiss each other's cheeks and they greet each other. So these details may change according to different cultures. But the idea of respecting one's elders, or as Krishna says, the austerities of the body, or offering respects to one's superiors, like mother and father, spiritual master, etc., like that. So, anyway, read the Bhagavad Gita about the austerities of the body, austerities of the mind, austerities of speech. So it's time to end. Thank you all very much, and hopefully well, tomorrow at this same time we're having a program. It's a Sunday feast, Sunday program, a New Year's Sunday program. So it's going to be the same time. It's going to be broadcast. So what we're going to do is give a short talk about the new year, maybe about resolutions, making a resolution to be good this year. And then after that, we're going to do some kirtans with the devotees, and all that will be online. Hopefully, if the computer works in the temple room, all those things will be online for you all to watch, and it will be hopefully at the exact same time as we do our classes every day. So thank you very much. All glories to His divine grace.